Picture the hottest day you've ever lived through. Your skin feels tight. The air itself seems to push back. You retreat indoors, close the blinds, sit in front of a fan or an air conditioner, and wait it out. Now take all of that away. No fan. No shade you didn't build yourself. No ice, no refrigeration, no forecast warning you 3 days out. That was the entire human experience for roughly 300,000 years. Here's the disruption. The human body isn't just tolerant of extreme heat, it's arguably the best heat-dissipating machine in the entire animal kingdom. Better than a horse. Better than a wolf. In a straight endurance race under a blazing sun, a human can outlast almost any four-legged mammal on Earth. Not because we're faster, but because we cool down faster. That single fact rewrites something most people assume about themselves, that humans are fragile, that we survived the ancient world by hiding from it. We didn't hide from the heat. We were built by it. In 1984, a fossil hunter named Kamoya Kimeo, working with paleoanthropologist Richard Leakey's team near Lake Turkana in northern Kenya, uncovered a nearly complete skeleton of a Homo erectus boy who died approximately 1.6 million years ago. Researchers now call him Turkana Boy. His frame was tall, narrow-hipped, and long-limbed, a body shape that physiologically does one thing extremely well: shed heat. Turkana Boy lived in a region that today regularly exceeds 40 degrees Celsius, or 104 degrees Fahrenheit. His species had already shed most of its body hair by this point in evolutionary history, and it had developed something almost no other large mammal has in comparable density: between 2 and 4 million sweat glands distributed across bare skin. A horse sweats through patches, a dog barely sweats at all. It pants. Homo erectus sweated everywhere, all at once, continuously, for hours. This wasn't a minor adaptation, it was a survival strategy that let early humans do something genuinely strange in the animal kingdom: hunt during the hottest part of the day, when every other predator on the savanna was forced to rest in the shade. Lions hunt at dawn and dusk. Early humans could move at noon, when the heat itself became a hunting tool, chasing prey animals until their bodies simply gave out from overheating. A technique still practiced today, called persistence hunting, by groups like the Sand people of the Kalahari. So the ancient human relationship with heat wasn't defense. It was offense. But 1.6 million years is a long runway, and the story doesn't end with one well-adapted skeleton in Kenya. Somewhere between 130,000 and 115,000 years ago, the planet ran an experiment on its own that would test this adaptation far beyond anything Turkana Boy ever experienced, a period so warm that some scientists argue parts of it briefly rivaled the climate trajectory we're on today. That's where the story gets stranger. Geologists call it the Eemian Interglacial, a warm period stretching from around 130,000 to 115,000 years ago, sandwiched between two ice ages. Sea levels during the Eemian sat somewhere between 6 and 9 meters higher than today. Hippopotamuses lived in rivers as far north as England. Temperatures in parts of the Arctic ran 3 to 5 degrees Celsius warmer than they do now. Modern Homo sapiens had already emerged in Africa by this point, dated to at least 300,000 years ago based on fossils found at Jebel Irhoud in Morocco, discovered in 1961 and redated by a team led by Jean-Jacques Hublin in 2017. That means our species didn't evolve during a cool, stable climate. We evolved in part during one of the hottest stretches the planet has seen in the last 500,000 years. There was no technology to survive it beyond what the body and a handful of tools could offer. No cooling systems, just behavior. And behavior turns out to be the second half of this story, alongside biology. Archaeological sites across the Middle East and North Africa from this era show something consistent. Human settlements clustered near reliable water sources, and activity patterns shifted around the sun rather than the clock. At a site called Kesem Cave, roughly 12 kilometers east of Tel Aviv, excavations beginning in 2000 under archaeologists Ron Bar-Kai and Avi Gopher revealed evidence of controlled fire use dating back around 300,000 years, used not just for cooking, but likely for extending safe, cooler hours of activity into the night. That's the pattern. When the day became unbearable, ancient humans didn't fight the heat. They rescheduled around it. Dawn and dusk became the working hours. Midday became mandatory rest, a rhythm still visible today in traditional siesta cultures across the Mediterranean and in the afternoon shutdown of markets across the Sahel. But here's where it gets stranger. Rescheduling only works if you have somewhere to retreat to, and the ancient world's most effective cooling technology wasn't fire, or clothing, or shade structures, it was rock. Caves maintain a nearly constant internal temperature regardless of what's happening outside, typically within a few degrees of the region's annual average temperature, whether that's Kenya or the Dordogne. A cave in a region where surface temperatures might swing between 15 degrees Celsius and 45 degrees Celsius across a year can sit at a stable 20 degrees Celsius day after day, season after season. Neanderthals understood this. At Bruniquel Cave in southwestern France, deep inside a cave system 336 meters from the entrance, researchers led by Jacques Jobert discovered in 2016 a ring structure built from broken stalagmites, dated to roughly 176,000 years ago. Evidence of deliberate, sustained use of deep cave space, far past where daylight or casual shelter would explain the effort. Retreating underground wasn't just about hiding from predators. It was climate control, built from geology instead of engineering. Except there was a problem with relying on caves, and it's a problem that reveals something uncomfortable about how fragile this entire system actually was. Caves are fixed. They don't move with the seasons, and they don't move with the herds. A cave that kept a family cool in July might sit 40 kilometers from the nearest water source in a drought year, or far from the migration routes that dictated whether anyone ate that month. Shelter from heat and access to food were often in direct competition, and when they conflicted, ancient humans usually didn't choose the cave. This is where the story stops being about biology and shelter and becomes about something closer to decision-making under threat. At sites in the Levant, including Ohalo II on the shore of the Sea of Galilee, submerged and preserved by the lake itself, and excavated starting in 1989 by archaeologist Dani Nadell. Researchers found evidence of brush hut structures dated to around 23,000 years ago. Not caves, built shelters, lightweight enough to abandon, positioned near water, oriented to catch prevailing wind rather than block the sun outright. That detail matters. Wind catching, not just shade seeking. Ancient builders weren't only trying to block heat, they were trying to move air across the body. The same physics that makes a modern fan useful even though it doesn't lower the temperature of a room at all. It just increases the rate of evaporation off skin. The body's 2 to 4 million sweat glands do the rest. So across roughly 300,000 years, the human response to extreme heat converged on the same three tools, refined again and again. Sweat that no other primate can match in volume, a daily schedule bent around the sun's harshest hours, and shelter chosen for airflow and stability rather than raw shade. None of it required inventing anything electrical. All of it required paying close, continuous attention to a threat that could kill within hours of exposure. Heat stroke can begin altering organ function once core body temperature passes about 40 degrees Celsius, a threshold of the human body starts approaching in as little as 30 minutes of unshaded midday exposure in extreme climates. That threshold hasn't changed. Your sweat glands are the same ones Turkana Boy had 1.6 million years ago. Your instinct to retreat from noon sun into shade, into stillness, into whatever cool space is nearest, that isn't modern convenience talking. It's a survival calculation that predates language, predates agriculture, predates almost everything you'd call civilization. The air conditioner in the next room is new. The urge that makes you walk toward it is not.